What's on your heart right now?
Man, I did want to talk about women. You know,
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
I love women.
Let's talk about it. Especially the one with the nice feet.
Toes got to be right though.
Toes gotta be right. You gotta have all 6 of them.
Man.
All 6 of them. That's right. That's right.
Exactly. Nah, man, and I wanted to talk about women because I was thinking about something. Ironically, when I was, brushing my teeth this morning.
That's ironic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Nah, man. So I'm brushing my teeth this morning, and this thought came to mind because the last time that we had spoke, you said that your faith really came from your mom.
Yes.
And I had a very similar situation. I'm not sure about you, Alfredo, but a very similar situation where my faith, just my outlook on life really came from my mom, and how I should go about doing things, how I should go about loving other people. And, even my aggression came from my mom, which is ironic.
Interesting.
Yeah, but thinking about that, a lot of the things that we do end up coming from my mom just because, in those formative years, those, early years, that's the person that we spend the majority of our time with, and then you end up pulling away and then, okay, I need to start looking at more so what my dad does, right? Because my mom is saying, you need to grow up and be a man, and now you start following the things that you think that a man should do. And, who's a better example than the man in your life? You know what I mean? But women in general end up having the task of going about teaching kids just how to function. Ironically, how to go about cooking and such. Because if you try to get those same lessons from a man, not every man is equipped the same. You know what I mean? But biblically, women, I believe, are the entity that end up passing down the religion of Judaism, at least, to the kids. And if you truly think about it, in the Bible, the lineage that led to Jesus being born was passed via a woman and not so much the man. Because I forget where exactly it came off track, but I want to say her name was Rebecca. And don't quote me on this, because I could be completely off. But she ended up having Obed. Obed ended up having Jesse. Jesse had David, right? Which is the lineage for Jesus, right? But if that woman was not in place, all those individuals would not have come along to, go about forming that lineage of Jesus Christ. So it came offline somewhere, and I want to say that it was because that father of Rebecca, don't quote me on the name, had her, that it was able to stay on track. Otherwise, they would have intermarried with somebody else, the Hittites or whoever, and it wouldn't have been the same lineage.
Wow.
Yeah. It also goes to show how much of a deep relationship God really intended between man and woman. Because it's not like either one of us can self-reproduce. And it took a man and a woman that God had purpose in their life, a calling, and that they had to have a certain standard in their life to build up certain skills or to have a certain testimony so that God could use them for the line that he came from here on earth.
Absolutely. And I wanted to throw this also out there because, thoughts during brushing teeth. Man, so men were allowed to have multiple wives back then, right? But women, it doesn't say women were ever allowed to have multiple husbands. So essentially from the very beginning, women were more faithful than men were, at least in the relationships.
Wow.
There was also the fear of being stoned to death.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then there's that. I can get that part.
Yeah.
So it's not ironic to me that we end up learning how to go about being faithful more so from a woman than from men. You know what I mean?
To add to that, I've noticed something very similar to what you're saying also in my personal life, but also in the leaders of the church, right? That I've been at, and in my life, my mom was really the one that spoke word into me, right? Like she would read me the Bible at bedtime, right? My dad, he wasn't so much of a. We didn't really have conversations, right? But I saw the example that he gave, right? Like when I would wake up, Saturday mornings, ready to watch cartoons or whatever, he's already there with, his magnifying glass and the Bible in the study, just like reading the Bible. And I'm like, boring.
Boring. You could be in the room much longer. Yeah, get out in here.
Yeah, I was like, boring. So I'm like, Power Rangers,
Exactly.
Channel Fox 32, right? Like I still remember, man, to this day, and they had that little logo with the TV box in there. And then you see Tommy come out there. Anyways,
Saturday mornings were the best.
dude. Yeah.
This is our Saturday mornings now.
Yeah. But yeah, so my mom was really the one that spoke word into me, right? And so, all these, she's what really inspired these, what's the word I'm looking for? The heroes, right? The heroes in my early childhood, right? And you would hear, the stories of how, humanity was saved through, Noah. And, obviously we talk about David a lot and how he did what he did. And then we hear, all of the travels of Paul and Peter, and, and so it really did inspire in my young mind. And I'm thinking as I'm going to bed, wow, that's amazing. Like these people were real. They did these amazing things, and they're so strong, or they're so brave, or how could they endure all this, right?
Sorry to cut you off, but so at that, how old were you?
I don't remember. I'm just the earliest I can remember this happening was I was at least like, I don't know, 7, 8.
Yeah. Okay. So 7, 8. But so at that point, like you were starting to see the Bible as like this is real.
I always believed it was real.
Wow.
But I think that's just because of the way that my parents would speak of God.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be like, somewhere out there.
Yeah.
There's a person.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, God is looking at you. Like
Yeah.
God can see you. God knows what He needs.
Exactly.
Like God is everywhere. He can do anything. And
Exactly.
these are the people that followed God, and
Right.
God blessed them, and God taught them how to live their lives, and they achieved all these things not by their own efforts, but because God had their back.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's
So this
just
is real history.
that for me. It was history.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
if we think about it, the Bible is history.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
proven. It's one of the only ancient or textures that has all of these ancient artifacts that back it up, and with the accuracy of I think it was 99.8%.
Yeah.
There's only deviation there because of translation and because some words don't translate the same. Right?
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a different topic.
That's go ahead.
So, not to mention the prophecies, right? Like my mom would always be like, "Oh yeah, they prophesied this back in the New Testament, and it was all referring back to Jesus, and He came to fulfill the word, to complete the word. And look, this is what happened." And then we get into the prophecies of our time that are being completed, right? And so we see so much of that in Revelation and Daniel, and so I'm just like, the Bible is real. Like no one can tell me that this is not coming true. You show me another book that has all of these prophecies that came true.
Yeah.
Because with a 99% accuracy rate, the Bible's prophecies are all coming true.
Yeah.
Right. And so, anyways, back to women. Sorry, got sidetracked. I feel because women also have being the more emotional gender. They do have this more, I don't want to say closer relationship, but this more open relationship with God, where they're a little bit more open to communicating, their needs and communicating their feelings, and they really lean on God, and so that's why we're there to work together, and that's why it's so important. The original design of what marriage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be to bring up the next generation. you know. And so doing that, you have someone who is open to communicating her faith in God, and then you have someone that could lead by example, right? They're both leading by example, but really
Different ways.
in different ways, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Man. I like that.
yeah.
What you think, man?
It's basically from the beginning of this conversation. It's like the same coin, just different sides.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you need both.
Yeah.
You can't just be tough and manly warrior all the time from your dad. Like I said, I got that warrior side from my dad, and I got my faith from my mom. And the earlier half of my life was very warrior driven.
Huh.
Was very like, I want to be like my dad, And now I find myself tapping more into my faith.
Yeah.
And I have like these deeper conversations with my mom. And it's just, I sit back and I'm taking in what you guys are saying, and I'm just reflecting on my life. It's like, yeah, like, so interesting. Earlier seasons were warrior. Now it's faith. And even more so now, it's like, how do I balance both? Because it's so easy. I just want to be one thing and just boom, just stay right in there.
That's
Yeah.
my identity.
Yeah, exactly. That's my identity because that's how my mind is always working. Like, how do I package this into something nice and concrete and I fully understand? But it's not about balancing it necessarily. It's more about blending it. Because when you blend, there comes to a point where if this is red on the right side and this is blue on the right side or on the left side, it's very distinct when you're on each end, but as you come closer, it becomes purple, and you're not really sure where the purple starts and where the purple ends.
Mhm.
It's just a really clean blend.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of where a lot of men are having challenges today is, how do I be that warrior that my dad has been raising me to be and what the media is telling me to focus on?
Mhm.
But I also have this loving and tender side that, one, I don't even know how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
That's a good one.
That is.
Is not knowing that, one, it's okay to communicate
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
and two, to do it in a way that is, good for everyone, right? Because you can say what's on your heart and say it the wrong way, and now you've shut that door.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And that's not conducive for any relationship,
Mhm.
whether it be with your spouse or whether it be with your child. I've always tried to be real conscious about how I discipline my girls, right? Because I was disciplined a certain way growing up. I didn't really agree with it, right? Sometimes I felt like it was a little excessive, right? But regardless, I am the way that I am because of it today,
Mhm.
for better or worse. And I want to take the good of the things that I think biblically I agree with, the way that I was disciplined, and also pass it through the filter of God's word. Do it in love.
Mm.
Do it justly, not to arise anger, not to do it out of anger for myself.
Mhm.
And
That's a really good distinction.
yeah,
Because I struggle with that.
yeah,
Because I was raised kind of similar to you.
yeah.
I think y'all will.
yeah, right?
Absolutely.
It was like, hey, just move all the sharp stuff away.
Exactly.
When my dad starts grabbing stuff, you just don't know. You just
Exactly.
don't know. You're like, the report card's coming home today. Let me hide the
Oh,
knives.
God.
Let me hide the knives and all the hard material.
Nah.
What? Surprisingly, the one who would whoop my ass when report card day came out was my mom.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't my dad.
Man.
Yeah,
Your
my
was
dad.
like, calm down.
Yeah, like my dad was more like all like the behavioral issues with me, and my
Exactly.
mom was all more of like the I don't want to educative
Yeah.
secular issues or whatever. But
Yeah.
anytime report card, I was like,
Yeah, absolutely.
like
Dad, you need to talk to Mom.
yeah, I was like, oh, Dad, I'll take the ass whipping from you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, man. And I think that's where we truly learn like what matters, though. Because at times when you only receive that discipline from your father, you kind of start to push him away. You know what I mean? Because if
Yes.
that's the only thing that you ever go about receiving from that individual, this isn't love. You know, this is not showing, the love that you say that you have for me.
Yeah.
You beat me and then you tell me, I still love you. Or I'm doing this because I love you.
It hurts me more than it hurts you.
Yeah, But then when your mom does it,
when they say love hurts.
exactly. But but then when your mom does it, you can kind of see like the pain in their eyes or something like that a little bit after, where it's like, man, I really went overboard on that one. I shouldn't do this anymore. And it got to the point, like for me, probably around like 12, 13, and my mom was like, I'm not hitting him anymore, because I can go about just talking to him and he'll learn completely different lessons than me putting my hands on him, type deal, So, and I think that's eventually like what it got to. Like, why are you doing all this stupid stuff? It's like, I don't know. It just comes natural.
I'm just good at it, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Hey, I'm an artist. I'm just good at it. I'm just really good at it. I don't know what to tell you. God made me this way.
Exactly. But just via those conversations and whatnot, my mom was like really instilling, like, hey, if you continue doing this, then this is what could potentially happen to you. And really just putting stuff into perspective. Like back then, it was like, oh, here she goes again on the soapbox. You know what I mean? But as soon as like it starts to click a little bit, it's like, oh man, she was really spitting facts back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because if I would have continued down that same path, who knows where I would have ended up?
Oh, for sure.
For
sure. That's such a common thing too.
Yeah.
Like my dad would tell us, like growing up, he's like, "Oh, you'll understand when you get older.
Yeah.
You'll understand when you have your own family."
Yeah, exactly.
Like my dad used to say that to us all the time, and I'm like, "No, I get it now.
Yeah.
I don't need a family to tell me.
Yeah.
Like I get it now, Paul. Like I get
Exactly.
it. And
Exactly.
and now that I have a kid and I have the family, and I'm like, that is a whole nother level, to what he was trying to tell me.
Yeah.
But just what you brought me back to in my childhood was sleepovers.
Yeah.
Like everyone's having sleepovers. I was like, Mom, Dad, I just want to go hang out and have whatever. And they were like, you can go. We'll pick you up at 11.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want to stay there. And I remember I was at another one of my besties' house. His name's Alberto. Shout out to Alberto. He was having a sleepover, right? And then it was 11 o'clock. My dad and my mom were like, all right, we're here to pick you up. I'm like, no, Mom, no, Dad, I want to stay. I want to have fun. And they're like, no, we got to go.
Yeah.
And then I remember both my parents would told me, my mom was like, I love you too much for anything to happen. I'm like, what's going to happen to me? But you never know, right? My dad was like, you're going to understand when you have your own kids. And I'm like, no, you're all bogus. You're all me. And then
I'm not reading the Bible tonight, Mom.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. I'm not listening to it.
Yeah. And sure enough, now I have my own kids, and I'm like, nope, no sleepovers.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah, exactly. That's just seeing, the products of the world, man. But I think that just coming up along the ways, you start to just realize what's toil and what's not. You know what I mean? And who was it, King Solomon? Like just throughout the period of his life, they said that he was like one of the wisest men in the Bible. All right, so everything that he started recognizing that he was doing, it's like, man, this is all toil. What does this bring me? All the relationships that I have with, these thousands of people, the worship that these people give me, it's all toil, to the point to where he eventually like went off the rails, like toward the end of his life, stopped following God and such. And then I'm forget if he ever came back to it, like right before he died or what, but I want to say that he ended up dying and he was away from religion. But you just think about that, man. In the event that you don't end up truly recognizing what matters, and you go through life and you are just sticking to these single focused things, are you really getting everything out of life that you're supposed to be getting? What kind of stuff are you implanting in your kids to, carry forth as a value? You know what I mean? So, my mom was the person that truly gave me my values. I love being around people and such, but at the same time, I know when I need to go about withdrawing to be able to, become that 100% self. Because I'm not an extrovert by any means. Apparently, I'm a conversationalist, but no. I know when I need to go about withdrawing to be that 100% self, to be able to give the 100% self to everybody else when they truly need it.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
so without that value, I would be walking around as a zombie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So being able to recognize the small things. So my mom, taking the time out to, it's okay to, be by yourself sometimes. You don't always have to be with somebody, under somebody, whatever. You know what I mean? It's okay to walk life by yourself sometimes and just have that moment of clarity that you can just speak with God about what it is that you're experiencing in life. And then at times, just being able to just think. I'm not sure how you guys go about getting your words from God, but at times, well, most of the time, it's when I'm by myself and I'm just, going over my thoughts and whatnot. Like, why did this happen this week? It's like, man, this is tough. How am I going to be able to survive this? And, at the worst moments, of course, it's like, you know what? I'm done. That's when I start getting that, hey, man, you got a little bit more. Just keep pushing. And then for whatever reason, after you keep pushing and you get to the other side, the reward is like 10 times better.
Yeah.
Just because you went through that, little valley, and then you were finally, I get it. You know what I mean? That realization of what it was that you were supposed to be experiencing in that moment, had you not taken that time to go introspective, you would have never got that. So passing down those kind of values and such, I only would have got that from my mom.
Yeah.
Because my dad is very impulsive.
No, I love that, man. There's two things that I want to piggyback off of what you're saying. My mom was the same exact way. My dad's a very social dude. He's got a lot of friends. Like I said it on a couple podcasts ago or whenever it was, but he's the type of friend I wish I would have. Like that's how loyal of a friend my dad is. My mom, on the other hand, is the one that's like, hey, you need to take time for yourself. Like that's her. That's how she recharges. And I think my siblings, because there's three of us, I think my siblings are kind of more like my dad in terms of how they recharge, and I'm more like my mom. So my mom and I have always had this really special like bond. Like I get her, and she gets me.
Yeah.
That's why she knew when I was going through my retirement, she knew I was having a really hard time. I just wasn't saying anything. But she kept telling me like, how's go to church, like how's your walk with God? You still go to church, and I'm like, yeah, mom, whatever. But she knew what really was going on. So as you mentioned, like your mom was like that. I'm like, dude, yeah, my mom was like that too, and she actually just celebrated her 51st birthday. Happy birthday, mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, mom.
So you said earlier how God speaks to you. I listen the most when I'm alone. But in perspective, when I'm alone, I see how God spoke to me in moments like this.
Absolutely.
Like I'll go back later when I'm by myself, and I'll go back to this moment, and I'm like, God was speaking something to me through Alfredo and Bryant that day. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
It'll really dig its roots when I sit up. Like right now, it's like, yeah, like we're recording and we're talking and we're present, but I know like the real depth and the ingraining part, the actual tattooing and making it on me stick, is when I get alone later.
Yeah.
Because right now we're unpackaging.
Yeah.
And it's really I love these moments because I'm able to unpackage things with you guys here, because when I'm unpackaging it by myself, sometimes my mind takes me to like all sorts of weird places.
Exactly.
Like places I'm like, whoa, how did I get here?
Exactly.
You know?
Backtrack a couple steps.
All right.
Whoa.
Shut the door on that one.
Whoa. I'm like, I thought this was just a cigar.
No, that's the
Honey,
joke.
I think I'm high. I've never been high before. I think this is it.
That's legit.
But yeah, man, it's just to think about that. Like, yeah, the things that we take away from our parents, things that are handed down, are both on subconscious and consciously. A lot of it, I would like to think they were being intentional, but I think we pick up more on the unintentional stuff. The do as I do as I say, don't do as I do type of thing, right? Like, but we're gonna see what you're doing. Like, you could tell me don't do this, but if I see you doing that, that's what I'm gonna copy.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, look at like young children. The way that young children are acting around you every day. You know, Um, it's funny because like God will notice things about the children. You know, and they'll be like, oh, I do this and this just like you. Right? You didn't teach them that, but
Yeah.
they see you doing it.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just how
You're like,
it's
just
it's
like
how
me.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, you look me, oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Check your
yeah,
pockets.
that's
Check
how
your
we
pockets.
yeah.
Hide the knives.
Yeah.
Tell you.
So it's how we are. It's how we are.
Absolutely. So, man, I wanted to bring up, that woman that had the constant bleeding. I forget how long it was, like 12 years or something like that, in the Bible, where she's following through this crowd, and all these what seems to be men were surrounding Jesus, trying to protect him or whatever you want to say. And then this lady that had been bleeding for years makes her way through the crowd, and all she could grab was like the hem of his garment, and instantly she was healed. And Jesus stops and said, who touched me? And everybody around was like, oh, we're in a crowd of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people touched you. It was like, no, I felt power flow from me. Who touched me?
What a statement.
Yeah,
Exactly. And this lady, I'm not sure if she was like kind of shaken by that statement or what, but she was.
She's like,
Yeah.
him. This guy over here, sir.
Exactly. But she probably tried everything. Probably went through like shaman and all that other stuff.
Sure.
Had stuff like tossed on her, and all right, dip your head into this water, you'll be good, type deal, and nothing was working. Exactly.
Yeah.
But by faith, she had went and touched Jesus's garment, and he said it. By faith, you have been healed. And I truly think that that's where our true blessings come from. You know what I mean? But having that faith and being able to discuss it with people, like even in this setting, man. When I get back home and I'm able to truly have a conversation with my wife, because my wife doesn't listen.
Whoa! Let's go! Man, we just lost a subscriber. I'm so sorry, Anna. Please don't unsubscribe.
But truly having a conversation with my wife, I feel a lot more connected. You know what I mean? Where I can actually go about getting the back and forth, and I tell her all the time, like, hey, if I'm talking to you and I see you on your phone, you know what I mean? For me, that's always been a deal breaker, because that tells me that your attention is split. You might be hearing what it is that I'm saying, but then when I'm asking for a response and all you can give me is, oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Really?
yeah, you know what? I'm not talking to you up until, exactly. I'm not talking to you up until you put your phone down, and I have 100% of your attention, because that's what I give to you. And I think that that's where the faith kind of comes in, where at times, in relationships in general, we're saying that, majority of our faith came from our moms, but in not every situation is going to be like that. We understand.
Yeah.
But the Bible talks to one person in the relationship being, full of faith, and the other person being, disconnected. That person that is full of faith can bring that person that's disconnected, to the kingdom of God. You know what I mean? So just having that little bit of faith between the two people, where you might be distracted right now, but I know that you have feelings for me. I know that you care for me. I know that you're wanting the best for me. That is what's keeping you in that relationship. And I think that that's truly our relationship with God at times. Being able to recognize that I am not my 100% self, because I sinned just yesterday, maybe even this morning, but then that when you come to God, it's like, God, I messed up. I really need your help right now. That he's going to listen, and he's going to give you maybe not what it is that you might deserve, because if we truly got what we deserve, then more than likely we wouldn't be here, right?
Absolutely.
But he sends people and things into your life that can go about, getting you on the right path for salvation. And that's always been, miraculous to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at times it's like, man, I really messed up this time. I'm not sure how God is going to end
God's
up
not going
receiving.
like this.
You know what I mean? And I remember being in like high school, my freshman and sophomore year. Every time that I would go about messing up, you know, at the end of the service when our altar call, if you feel like you're disconnected from God, every Sunday, it's,
Fine.
yeah.
Brian, you were here last week. What happened?
Exactly.
You just came up last week. And you're back at Clinton.
Exactly.
What did you do?
Hey, I'd rather not discuss.
That's between me and Jesus.
Yeah,
That's between me and
exactly.
Jesus. Well, you just told me to come up here. You didn't tell me I need to give you an explanation.
Exactly. You know, but I could only imagine like what people were saying. I was like, man, that kid's going up there again? You know? And if we really had to live by the things that people thought or said about us, where would we be?
Absolutely.
You know, but just because the faith that we have that God is going to be able to overcome all the things that we might not be able to overcome on our own, or that we can't overcome on our own, the spiritual warfare and such, we're able to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really big aspect of why some people don't come to God, is because they think that God is here to judge them, you know, and then they think that God is here to point out their flaws, and remember you did this, you know, but that's the exact opposite of what God wants to do for us, and that's the exact opposite of why He sent Jesus, right? He sent Jesus so that we could have access to the Father. You know, He said, no one can reach the Father if not through me. I am the way, I am the light, I am the truth. And He wants to bring us in closer. He wants to embrace us. He says, if you're tired, you'll find, you know, comfort. You'll find rest in me. If you are thirsty, drink from the everlasting water. He's not here to point out your flaws. He's there to take what you're calling flaws and use them for His glory, to show you why you had to go through that terrible experience, or to use that terrible experience for something amazing, you know, to take something that you think was detrimental to who you were, to what, you know, something that happened and you thought, I'm broken, and says, no, you're just in a process, you know, like I think of Clay, you know, the story of the pot maker, you know, and what is the process that clay has to go through? You know, it has to go from this raw material that has, you know, stones and pebbles and, you know, imperfections and impurities in it, and you have to take that out. It has to go through a process where it has to get kneaded or beat, and then you have to mold it, right? And that's kind of the fun part, right? And you're like, oh yeah, look, you know, I'm a vase, I'm a cup, you know, I'm a decanter, whatever, you know. But turns out you're not done yet. You have to go through the final process, which is through the fire. Right. And now this is where you get tested. This is where you see how true your resolve is, and this is how you whatever. But anyways, God is not here to judge you, and people think that God works in the same way that humans work, you know. And in our head, these are the thoughts this is the whispers of the enemies. Oh, what are they going to think? Because I had those exact thoughts. You know, if I go up there, you know, what are they going to think? And, you know, like, yeah, but, you know, we all need God. Yeah, that's true. But what are they going to think? Who cares? Yeah. You know, like, this is between you and the big man. Like, nobody, it's nobody's business what you got to say to God, right? Yeah. If you feel it in your heart that you have to make it public, all right, that's on you, right? But it's between you and God. And He says that He forgives all sins, right? That He took our sins and our illnesses on the cross, right? And so that you can die to your sins and be alive in Him, a new life, and start new. And that's why, like we said a couple podcasts ago, you know, the story of the prostitute, you know, who's here to blame you? Yeah. Absolutely. Go and sin no more. Just, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a walk. It's a walk with God. It's God. It's a walk with the Creator. So
that's, oh man, you just spoke a word for me, man. Like, I felt that. Like, I needed to hear that. I need to be reminded of that, because, you know, one thing I wrote down here was like, whose standards are we living by? The world or God's? Yeah. Two different standards.
Yes.
Two different standards. The world will tell you you are worth X, Y, Z. Nothing compared to what God can give you.
Yeah.
Right? God is, you can't put it, the value that has been placed on our lives is incomparable to whatever the world can offer us.
Yeah.
Right? And I make this analogy all the time, is when I was of the world, like, I was thirsty, but instead of drinking water, I was eating salty French fries. And that's what it was like when I was just of the world, when I wanted, the material things, the fame, success, power, all the things that the world said would make me happy, but ended up just making me more, quote unquote, thirsty, because I was just eating salty French fries.
Yeah.
And then the living word of God, like the water, was it you said the water or living water? Was it one of you? When you said that, I was like, that was it. Like, it's like, we're thirsty. We are all thirsting for something. There is like a missing, there's a quenching in our soul. And that's God.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So, to piggyback off of what you guys have both just said, man, I had a moment of introspection, like as you guys were speaking, right? Where, like, even when I'm just joking around with my good buddies, I end up talking about their downfalls, right? Like, you remember that time when you put your right shoe on your left foot? Stupid. I do that a lot.
Ooh.
Even though it's just like a joking thing. And it's like, man, I don't really know how they go about receiving it. In the moment, they're like truly laughing. But then, when they get by themselves, are they able to say, this person truly cares about me? Is that the fruit that I'm really displaying to them, by going about talking about their downfall as opposed to trying to build them up? Like, hey, man, you might want to take a look. You know what I mean?
Got no shoes on,
Yeah, but just in those moments, like, even just something as simple as that, talking about somebody that has their shoes on the wrong feet, you don't know how exactly they're going to go about receiving that, and should that be like the straw that breaks the camel's back? You know what I mean? How are you going to be able to walk forward with that? So I truly need to go about being more intentional, one, with the people that I'm surrounding myself with, because I find that, the people that I had a good time with, in my previous life are the same people that I try to carry forward with me. And it's not really conducive toward the lifestyle that I want to be living. You know what I mean? A lot of times where I'm trying to live this good life, but I'm bringing all the people that were helping me do bad forward with me. And then I'm at that junction where it's like, well, that was my buddy, way back then. That person, they haven't left me still. But is that truly a friend, or is that one of those devices that's going to hold you back? Because if you think about it, in everything that I just truly said, that is the enemy talking to us, right? Where we were talking earlier about going up to the front of the church and being, just afraid or ashamed of what people might be thinking about you.
Right.
And the enemy might be telling you that, hey, you might not want to go up there because what you did was irredeemable. And
Hello.
You're having those thoughts all the time about even just the small things, like, oh, you weren't smart enough to put that right shoe on your right foot, you put it on the wrong foot. Oh man, I'm so stupid. And you start carrying those thoughts with you. You know what I mean?
And it's that little thing.
Exactly.
That the devil will blow up and make it like.
Exactly. And then your buddies are talking about you. The world is talking about you. The world might have hatred for you. And you're just thinking that you're like the lowest person ever. And then it gets to that point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? And if you have the opportunity to go about being, that one thing that ends up assisting that person to be like, what, I can't actually do this. Why not be that? And in everything that you guys have just said, I was like, man, I need to start being a better person / friend. Yeah. That's it.
That's nice, man. That's real nice. That's deep.
Double
Thank you
check
for
my
sharing.
shoes real quick.
Damn
it, talking about you! Damn it, it's me! Oh, I got a slipper on. Damn it. But that's such a good perspective, though.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, I think with us, we have such this relationship. Like everyone could tell, like, none of this is scripted. We have fun, we joke with each other and stuff. But it's also good to hey, let's pause the breaks, because naturally I like to poke fun and I like to have a good time and stuff. And but I do have to remind myself that there were times where I was just putting this face on, this facade on, because I was sad as shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was going through, like, depression and anxiety and all this stuff. And the only thing that made me comfortable was watching other people laugh.
Yeah.
Making other people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
coping mechanism.
It was 100% a coping mechanism. So, like, to some people, this may be like, oh, that's far-fetched. Like, you're making fun of him for his shoes. But you got to look at the things that lead up to that, right? Like, all the little details that you're not, I mean, it's not normal to leave the house with 2 different shoes on.
Exactly.
Or like 2 left feet on. And it's like, it's just not a normal thing, right?
Exactly.
Like, so you have
what's going on in this person's life?
Yeah.
Right. What are the, what's not being said?
Exactly.
What are they not saying?
Exactly.
You know, like, just we mentioned it earlier, do as I say, not do as I do. Like, what is not being said? Like, they're saying all these things with their mouth and their words, but what's their body language looking like?
Yeah.
What's a story that's not being told?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is such a common thing in the Christian male, where I'm struggling and I'll poke fun at it, but I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because they're ashamed.
Yes.
They're ashamed, and the I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, go.
The enemy it's such a strong tool for the enemy to use. Is shame.
Yeah.
You know, and we're afraid of, first of all, what they say, the taller they are, the harder they fall, right? So if you're, somewhere up here and now you feel at the bottom, shame is such a strong tool, man. Such a strong tool. And when you said, the altar thing, that hit me, because I was there, and something that really helped me was, sometimes we're so concerned that we think that people are looking at us, when in reality they don't even know we exist.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so we're so preoccupied with what people will think, but in reality they're too busy thinking about themselves.
Exactly.
They're too busy thinking about, my kids are late for daycare, I got to pay the electric bill, man, I got a stain on my blue shirt, right? And so to even realize, oh, Fredo's been there 4 times, every service 4 times. That's interesting, No one's paying attention to you, man.
Exactly.
And in all reality, they should be focusing on themselves anyways, right?
Exactly.
Like Scripture says, what are you doing looking at, the straw in your brother's eye when you got a plank in yours?
Exactly.
Don't be a hypocrite. That's literally what Scripture says. Don't be a hypocrite.
Exactly.
Take the plank out of your eye before you even think about going, coming at your brother like that.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we all need to realize also, is that one of the reasons why we have to be such good ambassadors of Jesus is because, and show that grace, is because Scripture says that by the measure that we measure other people, we will also be measured. It says, judge not, so that you will not be judged. Right? And it's such an important way to carry yourself in life, because like we were saying earlier about the only Bible that somebody will ever read is you, right? Because Scripture also tells us that we have to conduct ourselves in an honorable way, have a good course of life, way of living, because we can be that example, right? The Bible calls it, someone wicked, right? Because there be wicked people out there that just want to spread rumors or, just speak ill of you. But one day, because of your good example, not coming back with revenge or retaliation, but coming back at their curses with blessings, one day they will be able to glorify God. They'll see God in you, right? And so that's a really hard line for me to walk,
person.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like the moment that somebody cuts me off, I'm in the car. I'm like, and I'm like, get out, stop, turn in your driver's license.
Meanwhile, the person in the car looking the complete opposite direction,
Right?
trying not
They
to make
had
eye
no
contact.
idea. Like, they weren't even doing it intentional. They're just not that great of a driver, or they're having an off day, or they're reaching for their coffee, or baby's crying in the back seat, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like we have to conduct ourselves with grace.
Yeah.
We have to conduct ourselves with honor, and there's many manuals out there,
Mhm.
but the best one is the Bible.
Mm.
That is.
That is legit.
That is.
See.
And people don't read it.
Nah.
Yeah.
Man.
There's so many people. I was just listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, right? And he was saying that there's this, there's manuals for your car, right? And it says, oh, well, this is how the system works, and the spark plugs connect to the leads, and, we need a spark, but it has to be clean, and if you do X, Y, Z, and you clean the carburetor, boom, the car will start, right? If not, then you can go about this way to troubleshoot what's wrong with your car. And he says there's no real manual for the most complex machine or design, which is us, right? Because we have all of these built-in, I don't want to use triggers, but like
Fail safes almost.
kind of like fail safes, but we have like habits as humans, like things that are just, it's human nature and there's no way around it, right? And it says that, or he was saying how there are ways to hijack that, and there are ways that you can conduct yourself, or things that you can do that would lead you to live a low quality of life, right? I'm just summarizing essentially of what he was saying, and he was saying that there's no manual for that, but there is. You know what I mean? Like there is a manual on how you conduct yourself in a relationship between friends. There is a manual for how you conduct yourself in business. There's a manual for how you conduct yourself with your parents, with your spouse, with your kids. Like there is a manual for that.
Yeah.
The book of Proverbs alone is a huge resource,
100%.
and not to mention all the stories and the parables in the Bible, that always have something to teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyways,
I'm sorry, Gajo. I think this is a really interesting thing to share. There's two, I can't name them, but there's two billionaires that have been quoted on interviews that have both said that they read a chapter of Proverbs a day, corresponding to the day. So today is what, the 7th? So they would read Proverbs 7. So like every single day there was like a chapter of Proverbs that they read, because it helped them conduct life, business, and everything else. So right when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Let's see.
that's why it's called Proverbs. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like it was an early way for you to have a layout, to have the framework of how you can walk in life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Man, I think that part of the issue that we experience now is that we had taken essentially everything that was supposed to be that guiding principle or guiding light for how we should live out.
Yes.
And it's just been, you live the best life that you can. But the best life that you can is, comparing myself to you all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know what I
want
mean?
to keep it with the Joneses.
Yeah, exactly.
Live your best life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm designing my life,
Exactly.
I've been screwing it up.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, it's not gonna be that great.
But it's societal, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you think about it. Essentially, all the mannerisms that we have are just based off of society. Where if you come from like a foreign country or something like that, and they drive on the left side of the road, and you come over here and you try to do that, like, what are you doing? You have to go about adjusting to the society that you're living in. And I think that it's like that in dang near everything that we do.
Of course.
So the person that decides to walk backwards or stands on the elevator and is facing everybody who's supposed to face in the same way, everybody's looking at them like, dude, what are you doing? Turn around. Even though nobody's saying anything on the elevator.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who is this freak on here?
Well, I mean, I think that literally corresponds to what we're talking about, like why it's so hard to be a Christian male in today's society.
Absolutely.
When you start to say, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, like,
You're an extremist.
You're one of them. You're one of them.
Exactly.
And it's like, what is that?
Exactly.
You're a hater.
You know,
right?
There's
Like,
so many words being thrown around.
right.
man. See, I hate to jump topics, but you had said something earlier about conducting yourself with grace. And it really stuck out to me because somebody had told me that the other day. Because we are our harshest critics, right? Just
100%.
walking in the streets and whatnot, just experiencing life as we are experiencing it. It's like, man, I really could have done a lot better in doing this, you know. And we go about pushing ourselves down, and everybody else is like, man, that dude is doing like really good, you know. He's driving a Lexus. You know, the 2005, but still a Lexus. You know,
You see all that rust? This 2005?
Exactly. You
The
know,
radio don't work either.
yeah. But you know, you think about the people that are literally comparing themselves to you, and it's everybody. You know, you go into the workplace and the way that you dress, people are, oh, man, this person dresses so nice. I wish I could be like them. This person dances really good. I wish I could dance like them. This person has a really good conversation. I wish that I can converse like them, you know, and so on. You're always comparing yourself to somebody else. So you being your worst critic is exactly what it is that we're talking about right now, that societal norm, where you are your harshest critic, and as a result, you're driving yourself to do better, yes, but at the same time, you're exhausting yourself. You know, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
You know, so as opposed to living like that, you know, give yourself a little bit of grace. Like, well, you know, I'm not doing the greatest, but I'm not doing all that bad either. You know what I mean? And I think that at times that's the hardest thing to go about doing.
Well, you just said it too. Like, you know, it's driving you, but you know, there's two things. Like are you driven to? There's a difference. Are you driven to win, or are you driven not to lose?
Yeah.
Two different things.
Yeah.
Right. My earlier career, I would say, like what led me to the successes that I've had was a lot of anger, a lot of pain,
Yep.
a lot of proving myself to my dad that, hey, I am your oldest son and I am worthy of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
A lot of it was that
Yep.
macho
Mm-hmm.
anger,
Yep.
and that drove me. But that can't be your driver forever because you will burn out.
Exactly.
It is a heavy load. And to run on that type of fuel, it's just not sustainable.
No.
I wouldn't want that for my daughter.
No.
I wouldn't, but I get it. That's sometimes part of the journey is that's your fuel. But when you flip it around, and I think I've flipped it around, or I'm better at it now, where I'm not driven by hatred or trying to smash my competition's throat. I am driven by the identity that God has given me. And it's like I'm still inspired to do, but my fuel source is just different.
Yeah, man. Have you guys watched the what is it? The George Foreman movie?
Not yet.
Man, it's actually pretty good. And do you want me to talk about it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So in the beginning of his story, it talks about how he grew up poor. Right? He had, I want to say, like 3 siblings or something like that. And he fell somewhere, you know, toward the elder in the sibling population. And they were like splitting hamburgers to go about being able to eat every day. And showing up to school and having like dirty clothes, and you know the shoes had holes in them, and the kids talking about it, oh, you can't even afford, you know, a sandwich. So he's sitting around all these kids, and he doesn't have anything to eat at lunch, and the kids around him are eating, you know, and he's just looking around. It's like, man. And somebody, you know, heckles him like, hey, do you want a piece of this? Takes it, tosses it in the trash. And he's legit thinking like, I mean, I could eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the kid made a comment that like set him off. And then later on in life, you know, he starts attributing all his success, not to God, but to his own hard work. To the point where after he had won his first championship, he gets knocked out for the first time in his entire career. And he almost died. Well, he did die, you know, in his locker room, and came back and had an experience where, you know, I'm not sure if God was talking to him in the scene or what, but he came back and completely different dude. So, like, right after he came back from, you know, the dead, if you will, he jumps into the shower turns on the water, and essentially like is cleansing himself. All right, and from that moment on, lived a completely different life.
Wow.
So the things that frustrated him in his past ended up leading him to the point where he had no choice but to go about changing. He got back into boxing, and then living that lifestyle that he had really obtained just via his death, his spiritual death and otherwise, ended up becoming champion again in his elderly years. Started doing things different for like his community and such, where he was all about self before he had to focus, or he started focusing on community, building up the kingdom of God because he became a pastor.
Wow.
So just exactly, it was very interesting, but just that flame switch essentially from that anger that he was harboring when he was a young kid.
Yes.
Inspired him, later on down the line, albeit via different means. He got his head knocked off, and then came to his senses. At times, I think that's what we end up having to
that's
do.
what we need, though.
Yeah, sadly,
Yeah.
But up until you really, have that moment where it's like, dude, I could not have done this on my own,
Yes.
or you lose your life, to go about actually gaining it. You can't really recognize what it is that you have.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah, I feel that. I tell Angela all the time, it's so crazy the things that we take for granted, and like you said, once they're gone, you're like, wow, that was great. I can't believe it's gone. Right? Yeah. I think that all the time with my hand.
Yeah.
Like I told you guys, they make me do these really silly, like you think it's silly, but they're actually very beneficial. But it just looks silly. Like the one I think of, the one I have the hardest time is they have this ball that has an uneven surface, and it has the alphabet on it, right? And so it goes on the tips of your fingers, and you're supposed to rotate it around so you can find A, B, C, whatever, right? It's so simple, right? Whatever. But with this hand, like
why is it so hard?
It's like A, B, drop. Okay, C.
Yeah.
Where's D? And I just get so frustrated.
You're tricking me.
Yeah.
There's no D on it.
There is no D. Yeah. But it's the things that we really have to be thankful, for what we have. Really, really have to, thank God, because He's the owner of all this, the creator of all this.
Exactly.
And just really, like, admire God first of all, but also, Scripture says honor all men. And so we really have to honor the people that are in our lives.
Exactly. Man, I think that just with that example that you gave with your hand, that it might be something that you might end up talking about with your daughters later on. You know what I mean? So, at least for mine, right? Growing up in unfortunate, situations when I was younger, I was like, man, I'm not doing that for my family. You know what I mean? So I'm going to do everything that I can to go about being successful. And then you try to go about building this life to where they don't have to go about experiencing those things, and you're providing everything for them. And then, it gets to a point where it's like, man, sometimes this person is coming off as extremely ungrateful, for everything that I'm going about sacrificing for them. You know what I mean? And then you think about it, like I put them in the situation where they don't have to worry about the things that they're going to have to experience and such, because, everybody around them is either doing like way better than them or what. But those are the people that they're comparing themselves to. And then when they come home and they're like, hey, why don't we have, this 120-inch TV in the living room? It's like, why do we need that? But
115 is not good enough for you?
Exactly. But it's those kind of situations, and you're trying to go about instilling like, hey, some of these things, like, they don't matter. But to the people that are going through those situations, like right now, it's like, that does matter. That's everything for me. Yeah, because this is what everybody else is saying that they have, and if I don't have it, they're going to look down on me. And they haven't gotten to that point in life where it's like, I don't care about what other people think. You know what I mean? But I don't know if we ever truly do get to that point, because we're always comparing ourselves to other people, whether that even Christians. You know what I mean? And I find myself doing it a lot, in all honesty, where I'll be sitting next to somebody in church, and this person, they're like during worship and all this stuff. It's like, what are they experiencing? You know what I mean? How come I've never experienced that?
I want some of that.
Security, exactly. Yeah, but falling on their face, and then like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen them, but you have like the preachers, like the Southern Baptists and whatnot, that they'll come over and like lay hands on people, and then people,
They fall back. Yeah, I see that.
you know what I mean? Like, man, how come I've never fallen?
But
But
every time they touch you, you do the body roll. It's like,
exactly.
hey, no, Brian. Like, oh,
exactly.
transfer. Oh, I'm not falling. I'm just
exactly. But you can see if the person like putting their full strength into fall.
They hit Brian and he goes like body rolls and he moves it back to them. You fall. Like, no, buddy.
Hey.
Do what that guy did.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But I find myself comparing myself to the people that I want to be more like. You know what I mean? So if not necessarily like living wise, you know what I mean? I don't care about the size of houses and all that other craziness because I have one. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to feel comfortable in what I'm in. So I don't care about that kind of stuff. But the things that are actually going to make me a better person.
Yeah.
This person is going out and they're running at 4:00 in the morning. I don't want to be up that early anymore. I'm not doing that. But man, that's really good for that person. I start comparing myself to people in that facet. And then just spiritually, like when you meet somebody that is just on fire for God, right? And like everything that they say is like biblically filled. You know what I mean? And you can actually see the fruits that they're bearing. And it's like, man, that person, they got something about them that I really want. And you might go about seeking it like that, but you might not ever be, in that same spot that they were, faith-wise, because you didn't have the same experiences and whatnot. And you just start comparing yourself to that individual. It's like, man, why am I not able to, prophesy over people? And, they have all these, moments with, you prayed over me, and then that next day, whatever it was that I was, experiencing, it fell off of me. And I no longer have to worry about it. How come I can't go about doing that? And not everybody was called to do all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? At times, I think that we are called to do that. And then at other times, I think that we were called to be, that individual that somebody else prays over. And then you have that thing fall off of you. That way you can build them up. So it's just about the season that you're in. And it's hard because you want to be able to do those things in your current season, but you're not prepared for that yet. You got to go through this fire, to be able to go about doing that. And without that fire, you're just that little lump of clay that hasn't been molded yet.
Yeah.
You're trying to fulfill a purpose that you weren't meant for yet.
Ooh.
I'm telling you.
Hey, snap your finger. Like that fire part, because I remember when we did like painting party, you know what I'm talking about? Like Carlene loves like crafts, so like that's something we would do. And yeah, so you can paint it, and just like you said, paint it, and then you have to put it in the fire, because if it's a cup that you're painting, you actually can't drink from it until it's been put in the fire. Because if you try to drink from it while it's still got the clay and the paint and all that toxic chemicals in there, you can't drink from it. Like you're designed to be a cup, but you can't do the things that cup's supposed to do.
Exactly.
You can't do that job properly because you just haven't been put to the fire.
Exactly.
Now you've been put to the fire, like you guys are saying. The chemicals are cleaned off, and you're ready to perform the duty of a cup. You're ready to perform the duty that you were called to be. But that came through the fire.
Yeah,
man.
Cue the music.
Yeah. And I think you, Angelo, said this. If you were called to bring others up, you're going to struggle with,
that's such a good one.
Your self-esteem.
Yes.
If you were called to cast demons out, you're going to have to wrestle with some demons first.
Exactly.
It's whatever you were called to do. If you were called to hold, if you were called to be a decanter, before you do that, you have to develop the skills, you have to develop the muscle, you have to put in the work out, you have to go through the regimen, through the to the tribulation of whatever, it will give you the skills to be able to perform that duty.
Yeah, man.
You know,
And just thinking about that cup example, man. You go about filling up that cup, drop by drop or whatever, and it's not going to overflow up until it gets to the top. So yes, it's fulfilling its purpose, and containing water. But I think about, just the spiritual stuff that we have as individuals that we could be pouring out on other people. Up until you're filled with the Spirit, you're not going to be able to really necessarily pour it out on other people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So up until your cup is full, then you're not going to be in the position where you can, just overflow onto somebody else, with the spiritualness that you might want to be able to.
Yeah. You can't give what you don't have.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I actually found that quote. I'm going to read it too. I love this one. Your calling is going to crush you. If you're called to mend brokenhearted, you're going to wrestle with brokenheartedness. If you're called to prophesy, you're going to struggle to control your mouth. If you're called to lay hands, you will battle spiritual viruses. If you're called to preach and to teach the gospel, you will be sifted for the wisdom that anoints your message. If you are called to empower, your self-esteem will be attacked. Your successes will be hard fought. Your calling will come with cups, thorns, and sifting that are necessary for your mantle to be authentic, humble, and powerful. Your crushing won't be easy because your assignment is not easy. Your oil is not cheap.
Yep.
That was filthy.
Hallelujah. You know what I'm saying?
Filthy, man.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Very true.
And that's such, when I saw that, I was like, dude, the empowering part, that like cut through me like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, man.
Because when I took the spiritual giftedness test, my number one thing was encouraging and empowering. So I'm like, okay, I really do like that. That's really my thing. But yeah, I struggle a lot with self-esteem. So when I read this, I'm like, oh, it's so, dude, if you're gonna heal the brokenhearted, you're gonna go through brokenheartedness because your cup was filled, so you can give. If you don't have it, you can't teach it.
Exactly. No, that's filthy, man.
And who to better help someone who has fallen than someone else
Who's
fallen.
been through it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Exactly.
It's like I know a lot of people with PTSD, they have a really hard time connecting with other people that are not from the service, right? Because they're just like, you don't know what it's like, you don't know what it's been through. And they're right. You have someone who just, came out, just got their PhD and is trying to psychoanalyze you, and they think they know what's best for you, but you've seen blood, you've seen war, you've seen, terrible things in life, and sometimes you need someone that can relate.
Because otherwise, it's just theory.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Exactly.
Everyone can speak on theory. I've read a book on it.
Yeah.
I've studied a couple of years on it. And for me, unless you've been in it, I can't give you that space in my heart and in my mind. I just don't feel right listening to someone that's going to try to tell me something that they've never personally been through. And that may be the wrong approach, right? Because hey, there's real professionals out there, and sure, but there's just something different when there's another man by me that gets what I'm going through.
That's been through the darkness.
That's been through that.
Yeah.
And it's like a different connection. And I personally have that with both of you guys. These guys, you guys get me to a level that I really respect. Okay, they know what's up. This feels like a good place to kind of let it settle. The podcast.
Yeah. I mean, are we just going to end it on that dead silence?
No, we're on the Whisper podcast. Subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah.